Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Joshua Armstrong, and welcome to my channel, Transformed with Joshua Armstrong, where we give you information and strategies to help you transform your life, to help you take your life from where it is to where you want it to be. Today, we're going to talk about stop making excuses. Yes, um, I've learned this in my life that either I can spend time making excuses, or I can spend my time trying to figure out how to find a solution. So one of the things is that excuses keep you stuck. Have you noticed people who keep making excuses don't advance in life? So excuses make you feel better temporarily, but they prevent you from growing. And sometimes, in order to get to the next level of life, you have to grow out of it. So when you constantly explain why something was not your fault, you give away your power to change it. Number two, also, so you need power to change what you did wrong. So when you make excuses for it, you don't you typically take your power. You don't give yourself the power to make a change. You cannot correct what you refuse to accept. For example, a person may constantly arrive late for work and say, traffic was bad, my alarm didn't go off, nobody woke me up. Now sometimes those things may be true, but if it continues to happen, the person has to take responsibility or leave home earlier, set multiple alarms, or prepare the night before. Um, Here's another example. If someone who wants to improve financially but keeps saying, "I don't make enough money," and that could be the truth, although their income may be limited, they may still be spending more carelessly. Have you noticed that people say that I don't have enough money? They amazingly seem to have money to go do things they want to do, like go to concerts. I'm amazed. See, I'm amazed at how the people who are struggling doing things I don't even do. And I'm not going to say I'm struggling, but I'm not balling either. So that's always funny to me. But those are the ones that says I don't make enough money. They may still be spending money carelessly, failing to create a budget, or refuse to look for additional opportunities. Um, Opportunities. So again, let me tell you this: the cost of living always goes up; it never goes down. So if your income do not increases, you're always going to find yourself in a place where you need more money. So you got to always be looking for additional opportunities to make more money. The excuse keeps them focused on what they cannot control. Responsibility helps them identify what they can change. Transformation begins when you stop saying, "This happened because of them," and start asking, "What could I have done differently?" Number two, taking responsibility gives you power. Taking responsibility does not mean everything is your fault. It means you are willing to take ownership of your decisions, your reactions, and your next step. You may not be responsible for what happened to you, but you are responsible for what you do next. I'm gonna example myself. I work at a place where we gotta give medication, and I am not a detailed person in general. So when I first started working there, you have to give medication. And you had to put a signature initial by on another sheet there. Of course, now they train you to do this a certain way, so you won't mess up. And of course, I purposely, no, I typically would try to do it my way. So what I do now is that one, I find out, I first identify, okay, why am I messing up? The first thing I noticed was that, well, no, another caveat is that I work overnight. Another thing I noticed was that when I wake up in the morning, my eyes are not adjusting to just writing. I'm getting a little older, so I've learned to instead of doing the meds immediately after I wake up, I do my notes first. Then I go do my meds. So again, and then I notice also I'm rushing. So now I take my time. It's tedious and it's sometimes frustrating, but my goal is to get it right. Now, when I got in trouble, I didn't make an excuse of why I got it wrong. I just said, okay, I will work on it. Repeat after me. I will work on it. So, and that's what if you develop that phrase, I will work on it. This phrase will help you and give you the power to take responsibility, and then give you the power to make the change. So, for example, someone may say, I yelled because they made me angry. The other person may have done something wrong, but you are still responsible how you respond. Instead of blaming them for your reaction, you can say, I was angry, but I should not have spoken that way. The next time, I need to calm down before I respond. So again, take responsibility for your action. And because that gives you power to change. And the last point is this: accountability produces better results. People who refuse to make excuses become more dependable, trustworthy, and successful. Instead of defending their mistakes, they learn from them. For example, imagine an employee makes a mistake that costs the company money. One employee says, nobody trained me properly, and tries to blame everyone else. Another employee says, I misunderstood the instructions. I should have asked more questions. Here's what I will do to make sure it does not happen again. Which employee would you trust more? You're right. The second one, of course. The goal is so again, when you take accountability, it produces better roles and people trust you. Another example is this: could happen in a marriage or relationship. A person may say, "We don't communicate because my spouse never listens," but accountability calls the person to ask, "Do I communicate respectfully? Do I listen when they speak? Do I only communicate when I'm angry?" Relationships begin to improve when both people stop keeping score and start taking responsibility for their own behavior. You can also apply this to your health. Someone may say, "I cannot lose weight because healthy foods is expensive." It is. That's truth. Someone may say, while continuing to purchase fast food several times a week. Now, okay, if you're gonna lose weight, how about this? Take that same amount of money that you spend on fast food, you put it towards something healthy. Sometimes I do that. Instead of me going to McDonald's, I will go to like a Wawa and get me a sandwich, a fresh sandwich, and some grapes. And instead of getting chips, I'll get grapes. So, again, you gotta make decisions. Make a decision to take responsibility and accountability for the change in your life. Accountability might mean planning meals, drinking more water, walking regularly, making better choices with the resources available. A transformed person can say, I was wrong. I could have handled that better. I need to make a change. I cannot change what happened, but I can change what I do next. That's my philosophy. I'm like, hey, I can't change what happened, but I can change what I do next. I messed up. I was wrong. I need to work on me making a better decision. Here's a closing thought. Excuses explain why you stay the same. Accountability creates an opportunity for you to change. Stop making excuses, accept responsibility, make the adjustment, and move forward. Every time you make an excuse, you give your power away. Like I say again, when you make an excuse, you give the power to make change, because change takes energy. Change takes emotional power. Change takes intellectual power. But again, when you make excuses, you say, well, you say, no, what? I'm not going to think about putting my energy into changing. I'm going to focus on trying to hide and cover things up. And of course, what's going to happen? You're going to repeat the same thing over and over again until you say, you know what? I'm wrong. Let me see what I can do next. Every time you take responsibility, you give yourself another opportunity to grow. And that's all you can ask for. When you make a mistake, all you can hope for and pray that you get another opportunity. And if you get the opportunity, because you have identified, you know what, I'm wrong, and now I'm going to take the necessary steps to make that change, you will give yourself the ability to grow. Well, once again, thank you for joining my channel, Transform with Joshua Armstrong. If you like this content, go ahead and like and hit the subscribe button. Also, if you know somebody that can benefit from this lesson here of stop making excuses, share this with them. Talk to you soon.